Olivia, all set?
I'm gonna hit record.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we're recording.
Okay. I don't believe we have a quorum yet.
I think we.
Is it four? Is it four, JB, or five?
Four.
Is it 4 or 5, Jamie, for the quorum?
Four.
4. Okay, we do have a quorum. Great. Good evening. My name is Peter Basserman, and I'm chairman of Branford's Inland Wetland Commission. I will now open the regularly scheduled meeting of the commission. Today is May 28th, 2026. It is 7 o'clock. This evening's meeting will be conducted as a virtual meeting using the Zoom conference platform. It's being held in accordance with Connecticut Public Act 22-3 and the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations for the town of Branford. The documents that we will be referencing during the meeting are on the town's website or on the agency's webpage. The final agenda for tonight's meeting was filed yesterday, May 27th, is also posted on the town's website, and the links for the material that we'll be discussing tonight is included on the agenda, highlighted in blue. BCTV is recording this evening's meeting. As a reminder for those speaking, please be conscious of positioning the camera so that your face is visible. Indicate your name and affiliation when you're going to speak each time, and you can use the raise your hand feature to indicate a desire to speak. Once the meeting has started, you might consider muting the microphone to avoid any feedback. This commission has the responsibility and authority to apply the Connecticut statutes and Branford's Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations to matters it considers. The commission's role is limited to the protection, preservation, and regulation of inland wetlands and watercourses and any land use activities that would likely have a significantly adverse impact on those watercourses and wetlands. We cannot consider as a commission matters outside of those areas defined in our regulations, and we look to apply those regulations consistently and uniformly in its considerations. Now take a roll call of the commissions on this evening's call. When I call your name, please acknowledge your presence. Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, present.
Commissioner Armstrong.
Armstrong, present.
Commissioner Goklowski.
Commissioner Goklowski, present.
Okay, and we have two members of the staff. Acting Director Frederick.
Present.
And Environmental Associate Sandberg.
Present.
I don't see any other commissioners, so all the commissioners that are seated can vote this evening. Let's see, do we have any commissioner that needs to recuse themselves from any of the matters being addressed on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda, and the first item is the approval of the minutes of May 14th, 2026. Again, they are on the town's website. Is there a motion to approve those minutes from a commissioner?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I make a motion that we approve the regular scheduled meeting minutes from May 14th, 2026.
And is there a second?
This is Commissioner Armstrong. I second.
Any further discussion on the minutes? I'll take a roll call. Commissioner Begeman, do you approve? If you vote yes on those minutes?
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Armstrong?
Commissioner Armstrong, aye.
Commissioner Goklowski?
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. All right, now item 4, applications for review. Inland Wetland 26-14, 509, 545 East Main Street and 6 to 12 Business Park Drive, installation of a swale. This is a continuation of a discussion we had at the last meeting on May 14th. I think that the only things I think I saw on the item here is some photos that we received and the staff report. Is there any other information, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. There's some there's the plan obviously. There was some correspondence from part of the applicant team, and I'll let the applicant speak to any resolution relative to that. And I guess I would hand it over to the applicant to give.
Okay, so I missed mentioning the letter we got. Okay, I'll turn it over to the applicant at this point, and we can review Inland Wetland 2614.
Yes, Edward Schenkel for the applicant 509 Branford LLC. Mr. Trinkus is just running late. He had a call that he couldn't reschedule. He should be available in 5 to 10 minutes. I was actually wondering if we could pass this matter and come back to it because he's running late. I apologize.
Given I think he's an important number to be on the call for the discussion, does any commissioner have an issue with going to item B first until Mr. Trinkus arrives?
No.
Okay, we'll table that for further discussion this evening. Inland Wetland 2616 is the next item. 850 West Main Street, lot split and construction of a retail building with associated site improvements. Let's see, is the applicant on the call this evening?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair. Luke DiStefano with Bowler, here on behalf of the owner and applicant. How are you?
All righty, sir. Why don't you tell us what we're facing here with 26-16?
Sure. So I don't know if you have plans available. I can share the screen if I need to, but this is a relatively, in my opinion, straightforward application. We have the existing property at 850 West Main. They're in town, looking to be subdivided and ultimately redeveloped with an O'Reilly Auto Parts store in the front half of the site. The back.
Excuse me. Can you screen share as you're discussing? It helps, I think, to have the visual when you're speaking.
Hopefully, folks can see the screen.
Yes.
I can, yes.
Excellent. So this is the site, and the red line is just the area that is in what I assume or what I consider to be the major talking point for this evening. But to continue quickly, as you can see, the site is proposed to be redeveloped as an O'Reilly Auto Parts store with a single access to and from West Main Street in front of the site. The back portion of the site is going to be subdivided off. We are looking to create 2 parcels here. The site under the current condition is just shy of 2 acres. It's not going to be subdivided directly in half, but it'll be pretty close, with slightly more land being given for or being used for the O'Reilly, and the back half being used for.
Excuse me, can you blow that up? It's pretty tiny to view. That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the back half will be ultimately redeveloped at a later date, but right now we're here because a portion of the site lies within the 100-foot upland buffer associated with some wetlands located in the northwest corner. You can see we have the wetlands identified here just off, again, the northwest corner of the property, and the red line is the portion of the site that sits within the 100-foot upland buffer. And the site, as I mentioned, is basically 100% developed today. There is also a cell tower located in the back portion of the site. That's existing. We're not proposing to make any modifications to the cell tower located in this portion of the site here. We are, as part of this plan, if you've had an opportunity to review the application or the plans that were submitted, we feel that we're making some improvements to the site that will actually enhance the wetland under the post-developed condition. We're increasing green space overall when you compare existing and proposed impervious and pervious cover. There'll be an overall increase in green space. And most importantly, we're enhancing the stormwater management system on the property. Right now, There's a little bit of stormwater quality and stormwater management happening. But again, if you've had an opportunity to review the plan, you'll see that we're collecting runoff from all impervious portions of the property. That'll be collected via deep sump catch basins, conveyed to an oil water or to a proprietary stormwater quality unit before ultimately being discharged back to the wetland, similar to how it is under the existing condition. We've done some soil testing. We've identified D-type soils, so we know, unfortunately, the soils on the site aren't conducive to any type of real infiltration, but we are looking to basically improve the site to the greatest extent possible. Again, we're in front of this commission because we are doing work. About 18,000 square feet of work on the 2-acre site will occur within the 100-foot buffer. And that is, again, why we're in front of the commission this evening. So with that, I do know you guys have a pretty full agenda. I'll open it up to comments from the commission. We did receive some comments earlier from town staff, none of which we think are major or insurmountable comments. We do also have a meeting set up with the Planning and Zoning Commission that will be happening next month. So we do know there are some additional reviews that will take place in connection with the project, but here in your commission was the first stop. And again, with that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions the commission or anyone on the Zoom call may have. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. DeStefano. Commissioner Goklowski here. I'm under the impression you're going to be removing the existing structure on the property?
Correct. Everything on site will be, with the exception of the cell tower, as I mentioned, will be raised and removed.
Okay. I'm very familiar with the history of this parcel, and there were some sewage issues, piping and sewer issues at one time when they were in operation. Are you going to be removing the old plumbing and that is currently on that structure, or what's?
Correct. That'll be removed, new sewer line installed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Can you go over the construction activities for the removal of the facility that Commissioner Goklowski mentioned, and what protections are going to be employed to protect the wetlands during this removal?
We have, I can't speak specifically to the demolition practices. That's a means and methods, but it'll be a typical demolition by a licensed contractor. But we have a soil erosion and sediment control plan that we submitted along with the application. So we will have all the safeguards in place to prevent any type of sediment migration, erosion, or any type of, for lack of a better term, pollution making its way into the wetland during construction. And along with that, there was a long-term operation and maintenance plan for the ongoing maintenance of the property once construction is completed and the site's put into operation. So we're taking all the necessary precautions to protect the wetland. And as I mentioned, I think we're taking steps to ultimately enhance the overall condition of the offsite wetlands once and should this construction take place.
I guess I'd like to see those soil and erosion controls in whatever sketch you have of that.
So this is the plan here. And again, if you've had an opportunity to review it, you can see that we have erosion control barriers around the down gradient portions of the property. We have temporary sediment basins. We have soil erosion control around the catch basins. We have stockpile areas. So again, it's all the standard soil erosion and sediment control measures that we typically employ for any project of this nature.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. You said you're splitting up the property. So what are you going to make it? 3 parcels or 2 parcels?
2 parcels.
2 parcels. And what are the plans for the second parcel?
It'll be developed at some point, but right now I can't speak to that. We're only here for the O'Reilly piece, but my guess is it'll be developed at some point.
Do you have any idea what the plans are for that particular piece?
I do not at this point. No.
Okay. All right.
Jamie, Frederick. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jamie.
That breaks down.
I had a quick follow-up question regarding the rear parcel. I believe as part of this proposal, it's proposed to be crushed stone or gravel, and there will be some catch basins installed in the rear. So I was curious as to what that would look like from a durability of the catch basin frames and also from preventing stone from entering the system.
I mean, it'll be a typical, it's possible that post-construction, if it is left as a gravel-based area prior to being redeveloped, like with any catch basin, there's a possibility of stone, but with the deep sump, 4-foot sumps in the various catch basins, and a long-term operation and maintenance plan, as I mentioned, those will be monitored just like any catch basin would on any active site. And if it's identified that they're full or if they're collecting any type of debris or sediment, they'll be cleaned as needed. So that's similar to, again, any type of long-term operation and maintenance.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, just to follow up on that, I know, just for clarification for the commission real quick, the town engineer did get review comments in on this application that were distributed to the applicant today. I was not able to draft a staff report. Olivia put a lot of legwork into starting one, but I didn't feel like it was as comprehensive as I typically like a staff report to be before releasing it to the commission. So I am asking some of my questions on the fly here. But I wanted to backtrack. I know one of the town engineer's comments was regarding the stormwater quality manual and essentially the fact that the maintenance identifies 2 different options for the maintenance. And I was just wondering if the applicant could speak to that. I know you mentioned you saw the comments. Did you have a plan to resolve that point in particular?
I mean, generally, we leave that up to the various commissions. I mean, traditionally, 2 times a year is plenty for inspections of these types of systems, these types of, stormwater management items or BMPs. If quarterly is preferred, we can do that. That's not a problem. Again, for a site like this, the size, the type, the operation, we don't feel that quarterly is necessary. But again, if it's 4 times a year, that's fine. If it's 2 times a year, that's also fine.
What's in the plan today?
Pardon me?
What is in the plan today regarding the maintenance?
It mentions 2 different time frames, but it mentions 2 different time frames for different portions of the BMPs in place. So I think the catch basins are quarterly. I believe the stormwater quality unit was twice a year, but again, if you want one uniform inspection rate for the entire system, that's fine.
This is Commissioner Basserman, are there gutters on the proposed building?
There are, the building roof runoff, like any other impervious runoff, will be directed into the system and then ultimately conveyed back to the wetland.
I guess I'd like to see that visually. So if it's on this plan, can you blow it up a little more?
It is, again, it's going to be difficult to see. Let me see if I can. we don't a lot of times show the actual catch basins, but you can see right here what we've done. And this may differ slightly from what's ultimately constructed in the field, but you could see all the runoff from the roof is directed into a series of downspouts on the north side of the building. That'll be collected and conveyed into the stormwater management system here prior to making its way southerly into the water quality unit and then ultimately back into the wetlands. So even though the runoff from the roof is, quote, clean runoff, it'd still be pre-treated like runoff from the other impervious portions of the property will be. So another safeguard over the existing condition.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I'm a little concerned with the comment that what gets done in the field may be different than the plan.
All I mean is the roof sometimes changes. The architect may change where the downspouts are on the roof, but we will still collect 100% of the roof runoff and treat it the exact same way. Just visually, we're showing it with 4 downspouts on the north side of the building, which we believe to be how it will ultimately be constructed. But it is possible that at some point between now and when they build that building, the roof line could change, the gutter locations may change, but it doesn't change the intent of the stormwater design and how all runoff that hits that roof will be ultimately treated prior to being discharged into the wetland.
This is Commissioner Goklowski again. You said you're going to improve the impervious conditions on the property. What are you going to do with the second parcel? Are you including what your plans are with the second parcel, or you're just concentrating the parcel that is going to be developed at this time?
No, we looked at the entire site. We looked as if the entire site was being developed. We knew that it was going to be developed at some point. So we've designed the stormwater management infrastructure to handle 100% of the current site, with the rear portion of the site being effectively almost 100% impervious is what we looked at when we looked at the overall site.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Is there any stockpiling on the site?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, sir?
Is there any stockpiling on the site?
Again, we showed some areas on the sediment and erosion control plan for potential stockpile. Again, that's going to be up to the contractor. That's more of a means and methods thing than anything else. But we did show area for stockpile right here, surrounded by erosion and sediment control fabric, so that if they do stockpile, it's similar to any other construction site. It'll be monitored and it'll be done in such a way that it prohibits any type of soil migration or sediment movement offsite.
This is Commissioner Begman. You're going to take up a lot of old asphalt, and can you just speak to where that's, if it's going to be stockpiled, if it's going to be brought off immediately, where it'll be stockpiled, et cetera?
Again, that's a construction means and methods thing. That'll be up to the contractor chosen to demolish the site. I could tell you in other locations like this, it'll be taken off-site unless it can be reused as fill or structural fill. But generally, that type of material is taken off-site to an approved disposal facility and disposed of according to all federal, state, and local regulations. But again, that's something the contractor will deal with once a contractor is chosen for the project.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I'm having difficulty with some of these decisions that we say are going to be left up to the contractor. Stockpile may move, construction debris may or may not be stockpiled on site, etc. We want more specificity on what the construction plan is going to be for this permit to get approved.
I certainly can appreciate that. It's just not something that is typically provided at this stage because a lot of that is unknown. And contractors do things differently, but they have rules and regulations like everybody else that they need to follow. It's not uncommon to stockpile construction materials on site. We show an area for that. It's not uncommon for contractors to decide where things might get disposed of based on price, based on distance from a job site. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Some contractors have preferred disposal yards that they use on a regular basis, where others will simply look for the closest or most economical location. So, until there's a contractor chosen, I don't want to give you information that isn't true. What I can say is if the commission felt strongly about some of these things and wanted a condition that this information be re-provided once a contractor is chosen, that's acceptable as well. But again, you're asking questions that are outside of my area expertise and questions that, again, just at this point in time, I can't answer because we're not at that stage yet.
This is Commissioner Basserman, but in other applications that this commission has reviewed, that degree of specificity has been provided, even though we're operating with the same Connecticut rules and regulations for those contractors.
And again, I'd love to be able to speak to other applications and other applicants. I don't know if those applicants had contractors already chosen, if they had preferred contractors that do all their work. Again, there's a lot of variables. I've been designing and permitting sites in New England for 31 years. And in 99% of the instances, this level of detail on plans is more than enough, whether it be inland wetlands, whether it be planning and zoning boards of appeal. But again, we're not looking to dodge the question. I'm just telling you at this point in time, we don't have that information, but we're happy to provide it when we can.
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. I'll just I'd speak to that point. I think the main concerns the commission has relative to stockpiling is the extent of stockpiling on site. Oftentimes plans will initially come and they'll have a small circle, and then the site development comes and it's a much larger stockpiling area. So I think the main concerns is the stockpiling area appropriate for what's likely to be stockpiled on site? And the other question is whether asphalt millings will be stored on site, because oftentimes the commission will want to see that maybe be a covered stockpile to help reduce leaching of chemicals from the increased surface area of the millings. And the main thing I think for consideration is making sure that the stockpile doesn't move in proximity from where it was proposed on the site plan to the wetland, and also that we don't end up with stockpiles on top of catch basins, which ultimately drain into a stormwater system that goes to a wetland area. So I think those are the concerns the commission's looking to address.
Well, my computer's not behaving here, but I can tell you when we lay these things out, obviously we put the stockpile as far away from the wetland buffer as we could. We also have to remember this is a very small property that's being redeveloped. It's currently 100% developed today. We are not modifying grading and drainage to any great extent. So we don't anticipate huge stockpile areas on site. This isn't an undeveloped site where we're going to be coming in and cutting into huge slopes, that type of thing. We also have a site that is very tight for everything that's going to be happening. When you consider there's going to be construction equipment, they're going to be putting in a building, there's not a lot of room to be maneuvering around here. So we place the soil stockpile area in an area where, in our opinion, it's going to be, like I said, as far away from the wetlands as it can be. It's going to be in an area that's conducive for the contractor, in our opinion, so that it doesn't interfere with other construction activities or equipment that will be occurring on site. But again, we're certainly happy if there are certain requirements the commission would like to see, i.e. some type of material underneath any type of stockpile, or additional provisions, beyond what we already show on the soil erosion and sediment control plan, we are more than agreeable to having those added to any type of condition or decision the commission sees fit to offer this evening or at any appropriate point.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. So you understand, Mr. DeStefano, I'm not one to turn away development, okay, in the town of Branford. But there are, and this is only my opinion, I think there's too many what ifs right now that haven't been addressed that we normally address before approving any type of application. We also don't have a staff report from the staff, which gives us a little more guidance on to look at certain things. And the commission knows me. I'm not comfortable of voting for an approval on this particular application this evening. And I hate this be that way, but there are too many what ifs. You keep telling us that, well, 99.9% of the time. Well, this is the 1% that we're very careful when we start anything. And if you say that the property's been developed, well, you know, if that property was being developed today under today's standards, it wouldn't have been approved. So, and I'm sorry. I know the history of that property too well to give my opinion this evening for an approval. So,
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, did the town engineer have other concerns that were raised, or the one that you mentioned, is that the only one?
There were other concerns that were raised. Some of them I would say are specifically planning and zoning. Some of them kind of overlap both jurisdictions. There was a general comment about easements, somewhat more of a planning and zoning issue, but typically something in the wetlands wants to see on a site plan. There's probably some grading comments relative to the retaining wall that I have not quite been able to get compiled, that will be going out to the applicant relative to the zoning regulations. Retaining walls have to be at least 6 feet from any parking lot area, and as I'm looking at this plan, maybe it is compliant with that. I'm not entirely sure, but that was something I wanted to double check. And then I know the town engineer had a comment about some of the grading along Route 1 as it ties into the site grading shown on site. In addition to the two water quality, there were a couple other water quality comments, one of which was one of the pipes in the system not being sized properly for 10-year stormwater conveyance. I don't know if the applicant had a chance to look at that and be able to know what the solution for the pipe replacement would be. It seems like they're open to making the switch based on the comments made at the beginning of the meeting. The sewer lines, I would say, is probably more of a zoning.
So, this Commissioner Basserman, it sounds like it's not ready for prime time at this point. There needs to be reviewed both by wetlands as well as planning and zoning, and you're kind of wearing both hats these days. So I'm going to make a motion that we table 26-16.
Before you do that, Peter,
yes.
Can I interrupt you and stop you? I just want to point one thing out and see if any commissioners have any other questions. So that way, if we are going to continue this, hopefully everything is ready to go at the next meeting and the applicant can move forward and not be held up. So I do just want to point out a couple of things, and I think also perhaps give the applicant a moment to address any follow-ups that they may have before we continue. So Olivia did 2 GIS maps, which are in the application. She's got one with an aerial image and some contours and the offsite in the wetland area that was delineated as part of an application for the abutting property. We do not have a wetland delineation, but there is a wetland area to the rear of the property to the east as well, approximately in this area here. It is off-site, so in that sense, we wouldn't require the applicant to delineate it. I do have a couple of photos from when I went out to the site. You can kind of see the backside of local, and by backside, I mean the side opposite of the entrance. And this is the property line that abuts the wetland area that you see here. So this picture we were just looking at is approximately in this area. It does look like the wetland might be a little bit more extensive. Again, it appears to be mostly off-site. I'm not entirely sure if there's a little bit of wetland area that perhaps extends onto the subject site. Presence of phragmites is not a wetland indicator, but they do tend to, plant does tend to grow in wet areas. This picture is the back of the site. So we're kind of looking in this area over here, which is where the stormwater outfalls from the current system and the proposed system. One of the things I noted from the site plan is that the outfall doesn't appear to be clearly identified the location. A lot of times when there's rehabilitation of an existing stormwater system, the commission likes to see that the outfall has been inspected and that it's working properly and is properly armored to prevent erosion. So I don't know if that's something that the commission would like to request for the next meeting, is confirmation that that outfall has been inspected and is working properly, or if that's something the applicant will be able to speak to when we hand it back over. And then this is looking over to the east on the abutting property to what I believe is likely another off-site wetland area, just for context. And then this is kind of looking more to the back of the subject site.
This Commissioner Besson,
So-
Jamie, that last picture you had, how close is that to the, it's off-site, you said, how close to the property line?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. But this catch basin here
Yeah.
is this catch basin here.
Oh, okay.
But I will note that when I was out there, there's a very small portion of this lawn that seems like it would be graded to potentially flow to this catch basin, and the rest of it is graded to away from the subject site. And that's shown in the watershed calculations. Any questions on any of that from commissioners?
This is Commissioner Basserman, would it be your intent, Jamie, to put in some document, those questions or comments, and forward that to the
Yeah,
applicant so it can be
Certainly
reviewed for the
we'll
next
follow
meeting?
up with the applicant. I'd also, like to provide them the opportunity to see if they have any comments or questions that they want to provide while we're all together.
This is Commissioner Begman. I like the idea of the project coming back when the contractor is known, so that we can be told what the erosion controls, et cetera, sediment erosion, the specifics would be. And I had a question about just, is there a provision for where in the paved areas for parking where the snow removal will go? And where the snow piles are going to be piled? It's a question for the applicant.
Well, I believe the snow storage areas were shown on site, but I'll make certain that when we come back, they will be, if they are not. But generally, again, they'll be in landscaped areas as far removed from the wetland as we can. I can't unless it's a specific requirement by the commission that there be no snow storage within the buffer, we would keep it entirely outside, but generally it's going to be in landscape portions of the property around the perimeter. And then again, we're also in instances where we have tighter sites like this if the commission deemed fit. We have in the past agreed, I can't say we would right now, we'd have to take a look, but we have agreed to have snow removed entirely from properties during heavier storm events, but traditionally we're able to find plenty of room to mitigate snow and keep the site operational at the same time. I would, however, ask that comment you made relative to coming back once a contractor is chosen. I'd prefer not to have that as a condition because we don't know when a contractor will be chosen. This site, depending on how long it takes to be permitted, funding, I mean, we have no idea when a contractor will be chosen, but I can tell you, despite a contractor being chosen, if there are specific issues that the commission wants to see or specific items put on a plan or conditions in any approval, we're happy to deal with that. That's, again, it's not something we're looking to shy away from. It's just something that right now I can't provide.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Begeman. I thought that that's what you offered. I thought you offered bringing back the plan once the contract was hired. I thought that that's what you said.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I see the concerns on both sides. And what I can do is I can draft some language that might address the commission's concern, but also allow this to move through the process. So the commission has had conditions of approval that might make a plan come back after approval has been granted, but before site work starts. So if there was a condition where it did have to come back, I would envision it be in that capacity, but we might be able to say, have worked some language in for possible staff review, and you know, if it's a significant difference, staff can bring it to the commission if they feel that it's warranted, kind of thing.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. Mr. DeStefano, I just have one more question for you. What is the plan on doing this project? Are you looking to do the project this year, next year, 5 years from now? Is there a plan in place? Or an idea in place?
Based on everything we know right now, they want to build it as soon as they can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because the information, the way you're saying is we haven't chosen a contractor yet, but if you're looking to do it as quickly as possible, if it was me doing a project, I would want to have my contractor so I know where all my eggs are going to be going. That's all my concern.
And again,
let the record reflect it. Let the record reflect that the zoning and wetland enforcement officer Gwinnell has joined the call. I'm sorry, Commissioner Goklowski, you had something else?
No, I'm all set, Commissioner Basserman.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, you mentioned the delineated wetlands for a site that is, I guess, tight, as the applicant mentioned, and the fact that you know there's an off-site wetland, etc. Do we normally require a delineated wetland for a project like this?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So we don't require off-site wetland delineations. I do think that the question did kind of pop into my mind when I went out there earlier this week as to whether or not the wetland area might extend onto the subject property up in this area based on changes. I don't remember when this was delineated. 1 minute. I believe it was delineated in
you talking about
2007. like I said, I wasn't really sure where the property line was when I was out there. I brought out the proposed plan instead of the existing conditions, and it was hard to see where the curb was relative to the property line. I would say to that end, one question that I would have for the applicant to help prevent potential further questions at a later time is on the site plan, a swale is proposed along that area.
On the
And
western edge.
it's not entirely clear from the application materials what the proposed is it proposed that would be a lawn swale, like a typical lawn seed mix?
Correct.
So one thought that I'll let the commission speak to is would there be any ability to potentially provide some, and I know that you're capturing that and it's not going to the wetland, it's going to the rear of the site. But sometimes when there's activity close to the wetland, the commission's looking for some sort of native planting plan to kind of help offset the development relative to the wetland, and keep that area shaded and having some vegetative protection from the development. So was there any consideration as to whether there could be some vegetation to supplement that swale?
If that's a requirement, certainly. We did provide a full landscape plan with the application that identifies various plantings. The swale itself was designed to be a grass swale with a catch basin. Again, that ultimately contributes to the rest of the stormwater management system. But if there's specific plantings or some additional safeguards the commission would like, we're all ears.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Just of note, when we have reviewed plans, generally as we talk about planting plans or stormwater management plans, etc., we have the applicant share the detail on the screen and discuss it sheet by sheet, as opposed to just an overview and then kind of verbal comments. So it'd be helpful, for instance, with the planting plan to actually see what the plan is, the identification of the shrubs and those kinds of things visually. As a process, that's what we normally do.
Which again, we have the entire plan set ready to go. I stopped sharing my screen when it became evident that that a continuation was imminent, and I, at this point, would just ask that if the agent could prepare a list of comments, questions, other than what I've already got for notes here coming out of her staff review. We're more than happy to take a look at it, and when we're back again at a future date, we can go through the plans page by page, comment by comment. Again, whatever the preference of the commission is, we're happy to oblige.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Any commissioner on the call not wanting to move this to the next meeting? Is the next meeting going to be 2 weeks, Jamie? Or 3? 2, right?
The next meeting is the 20th. Wait, sorry. I got rid of my May calendar. Next meeting is June 11th.
June 11th. Any commissioner have any concern about moving this meeting to the June 11th next regularly scheduled meeting of the commission? Do we need to take a vote on that or not, Jamie?
No.
No, okay.
Jamie,
Thank you. Look forward to the 11th. Thank you.
I just have one quick question relative to the continuance. Jamie, is there any time frame we're up against? Because it is possible. I don't know when we're going to get the full list of comments back from you. I just want to make sure that we have adequate time to respond and get all the information. So I'd like to keep it on the 11th, but it is possible we may need to push it out.
I can work with you on that. I can work with you on that.
Perfect.
Understood.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll now go back to inland wetland 2614, 509, 544 East Main Street, assuming that Mr. Tinkus is here.
I don't think Mr. Trinkus is on yet. I just received a text message about 10 minutes ago saying he's going to be on soon. Mr. Trinkus, are you on? I don't think he is. I do apologize. So being that he's not on the call yet, can we pass this matter again, please?
Any commissioner object to that? Great.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two applications for receipt. We generally don't get into them on the receipt. Jamie, is there any reason why we should deal with this now, or can we
No.
use standard protocol and move this to the next meeting for discussion?
Yep, possible agent approval potentially, but
For the big one.
certainly anything that's appropriate, we'll bring back to the commission at the next meeting.
We'll deal with that next meeting. Next up, we have a couple enforcement items. CISA Correct 25-1201, 2333 School Ground Road. The removal of vegetation adjacent to the water course and the filling and grading within the upland review area without a permit. This is continued from our last meeting of May 14th. And for the applicant, we have, or for the CISA Correct order, we have who? Who on the call for that?
I'm here on the call, Mr. Chairman. This is George Logan with Rema Ecological Services.
Okay.
Very briefly tonight, as you might recall, there's Mr. Trinkos. Briefly, I wasn't able to be at the last meeting because I had a previous commitment. And I submitted a mitigation plan, restoration plan. You saw a plan, and
yep.
If possible, I'd like to see if Jamie could bring the survey plan on, not the mitigation plan, the restoration plan, but the mitigation plan up, or I could do it.
Either works. I'm looking for it in the Dropbox.
Okay, so what I want to show you is a couple of features on the plan which relate to the notice of violation that we got just before the last meeting from the town engineer, because as noted on the plan, we were within two features that are regulated by, I guess, the federal government and also by extension, the town itself. So the first thing I want to point out is that there is a vertical line that you see there that goes from the top to the bottom, and it's this cross section, and it has an elevation on it, and that says 27.5. That is a sort of an indexed line that came directly off the firm FEMA maps, which I've also looked at, and so our surveyor was able to put it as close as possible to where it is. Then you will see two other lines that kind of join together in right there. So you have a floodway, and that's that line that goes east to west, roughly. And then off that, the Zone AE diverges, and that's the floodplain line. So that's a 100-year floodplain. Now, in talking with the town engineer, and Jamie, I think, also has had a discussion with him, there are two issues here. The first issue is that it's completely, shall we say, it cannot happen that we can have fill within the floodway. That's not allowed. So if that mapping is correct, then that portion of the fill would have to be removed. As far as fill within the floodplain itself, so that's the Zone AE, which is based on an elevation. By the way, if you think that the elevation is roughly plus or minus probably a few inches on the site, maybe a foot, maybe a half a foot, 27.5, you can see that we don't exactly match a 27.5 on the east side or on the west side. So two things could be happening here. One, we don't have the appropriate elevation information dialed in because this is more index mapping. So what the surveyor did is he just basically took the lines as they were and basically massaged them into the site to the best of his ability. But it might be a little different. So in discussions with your town engineer and realizing that the issue with the floodway and the issue of the floodplain, in a sense, puts the restoration of the wetland kind of in the back burner until that situation is resolved, because it might change things to quite some extent here. So what I've asked the surveyor to do is to bring in the 2023 GIS LiDAR information, which is 1 foot that the state has. And thankfully, they're all in the same datum, the same vertical datum, so they can be brought in, which then will show us exactly. And this is an exercise that I try to do, but my capability on my computer is not that good because I'm not a surveyor, so I can't really do it properly. But I think what that will do is it will give us a pre and post understanding of what the encroachment of this fill slope was within the floodway and also within the floodplain. And also I've asked the engineer, the surveyor, to do as best to his ability based on the elevations that FEMA has provided for both the floodway and the floodplain, and dial those into the pre-existing contours, so the 2023 LiDAR. And that will give us exactly what has to be done here. So if we find that we have fill in the floodway, that has to be removed. That's the end of that story. As far as fill within the floodplain, we could probably do something on the site, in the wetland itself, or in the vicinity of the wetland, where we can grab additional flood storage compensation. And per your town engineer, as long as that flood storage compensation is connected to the river, then he'd be fine with that. But that was from our initial conversation. So I guess the long and short of it is that we're going to have to wait for the surveyor to put that information. I've been in contact with him even just a little while ago, and he said that he will do it as fast as he can. So hopefully within a week, we'll have the information. We'll be able to look at it and provide that prior to the next meeting. But if it looks like we can't do it for somehow, then we'll probably have to let you know what we've done and hopefully resolve all that by the following meeting. So that's kind of where we're at this point.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Mr. Logan, why are the rules different for a floodway versus the floodplain in terms of the fill?
Right. So the floodway is really during the 100-year flood event. That's the course of the water course itself. That's the way it flows. So it's the flow line. So we cannot impede that. The floodplain is where the water comes out of the bank and spreads laterally. So that's the floodplain. That's the A zone. So the A zone is easier to accommodate, but we cannot accommodate the flow of the river during a 100-year storm. We cannot impede that. That's not allowed.
And that's, as a follow-up, that's independent of the size of the floodplain?
It's independent, right. So FEMA has figured out hydraulically by doing some HEC-RAS computations, that's how they come up with their cross-sections, as to where the river will flow during a 100-year storm. And then they've also looked at how the water is going to overflow laterally into its floodplain to accommodate that additional water. But the flow is within the floodway. The flooding can extend beyond where the river is flowing.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds like more to come, and
Yes.
hopefully we'll have that at the next meeting. If not, you'll let us know.
Absolutely. We will do that.
Okay, now that I think we have all the appropriate parties for
So just for
INW
clarification,
2614, 509,
before we
544.
move on, just for quick clarification, continuing the show cause hearing to the June 11th meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
540, I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
509, 545 East Main Street, and 6 to 12 Business Park installation of a swale, which is a continuation of the May 14th meeting. And let's see, we have all the parties on board. Let's try this again.
Good evening, Edward Schenkel for the applicant 509 Branford LLC. I'm here with Mr. Stephen Trinkus, our professional engineer, and Mr. Foss, our LEP, is also here, available for questions. I'll speak quickly and then I'll turn over to Mr. Trinkus. But I can represent that I have spoken to Attorney Deacon, who is counsel for the other applicant, the co-applicant, 612 Business Park Drive, Stony Creek. And he did state that Mr. Brown and Mr. Clutch are not pursuing those concerns that they raised before and that they will not be attending the meeting tonight, which they are not. I can represent that to the commission. To the extent that Mr. Brown's comments need to be addressed, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trinkus, who can talk about that and answer any other questions for the commission. And then I'd like a few closing remarks as well.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Steve Trinkus, for the record, professional engineer from Southbury. A lot of Mr. Brown's comments dealt with more of the stuff on the Clutch property. He did at the meeting ask about, could you infiltrate water farther up on the site? And our LEP did provide a map to staff showing the extent of the impermeable liner above the questionable environmental fill that was used here. But you just can't infiltrate on this site, even above the liner, which goes about halfway up into that field. When we did the sidewalk, we parked on the lower driveway, and when we looked uphill, that lawn area, the liner appears to go about halfway up between the roadway and the units on the north side. But, even if water infiltrated above that, it would have gone underneath the liner and gone into that contaminated fill, which is what you don't want. When I was on the site a couple of years ago, these lawn areas, while they are lawn, the soils are also very compact. They're pretty much almost one step away from being pavement, so rainfall just runs off of them. It's not infiltrating. We went over the swale in the field, which is basically to provide a smooth, uniform, flow path from the western end of the mobile home park, heading back east and then turning into the end of the box culvert, so that rainfall falling on the mobile home park as it runs down to the southern property line will now have a path that it can flow and get into the box culvert and basically eliminate, the flooding that has occurred in this lower end of the mobile home park. That's the whole purpose of the swale, is just to provide a smooth conduit for the water to get from point A to B.
And this Commissioner Basserman, help me, are we regrading any part of that swale so that the water movement is going to get into that culvert appropriately?
Yeah, under the pavement is a 2-inch layer of pavement. There is, I believe it's a 6-inch base under that. So we're just digging down a little bit, Commissioner Basserman, to just, put a base of gravel in, pave it, and then the top of the pavement, when it gets to the box culvert, will line up with the invert of the concrete. So it will be a smooth conduit right into the box culvert.
Okay.
And on the downhill side of the swale will be a little 6-inch high earth berm to make sure the water hits the swale and runs to the culvert. So, but that's above the existing grade.
And This is Commissioner Bassman, and we have calculations for major storms, that the sizing of the culvert and the swale are appropriate.
Well, the box culvert would have been sized by the original design engineer when the medical building was built. The watershed here has not changed. It's not only this site, it's the mobile home park to the east of it that I think is, I guess, north of Dunkin' Donuts. That drains onto this site and, drains down to this point. The watershed has not changed, at all. But the box culvert itself would have been sized by the original design engineer to convey, the flow from the upstream area. That's standard engineering practice. I did not do computations because we're not changing anything. We just need to provide a path for the water to get to the box culvert. Right now, it can't until it floods, and then when it floods up to a certain point, the top of the water surface then goes in the box culvert, but we're still stuck with flooding on the western portion of the site.
As a follow-up, though, that culvert was sized with, dated stormwater management guidelines back whenever that was put in. And my guess is things have changed with the storms that we've experienced, lately. Are we still comfortable with the size of that culvert?
Yeah, that culvert's it's either 30 by 30 or 30 by 36. I believe Mr. Clutch had it videoed, which I saw. It is very clean. There's no obstructions in it. No debris, no roots, things like that. So it's got a lot of capacity going through that site. Regarding rainfall, on an annual basis, the rainfall amounts haven't really changed. They're about a 3 to 4 inch rain when you look at rainfall data. What we do get is some of these short duration, high intensity storms, which, quite honestly, even in our hydrologic models, we can't take account because all the data which we get from Cornell, what's called the NOAA 14 data, they're 24-hour events, and that's the design basis that all engineers use. But by providing a smooth conduit from the western portion of the mobile home park, even if we get that, short duration, high intensity storm, that water will be able to get to the box culvert and not cause flooding. But again, our site takes a while to get to this point. While you have, the driveways, you have the mobile home roofs, there is also a lot of green space out here. I've been out there in the rain and I have not seen like concentrated flow coming across the meadow, and it's been raining quite hard. So, it all gets there, and, but unfortunately right now it just ponds. But that 30 by 30 box culvert can convey an awful lot of water.
This is Commissioner Begman. Just a question. You mentioned that 6-inch earthen berm.
Yes.
Along the whole swale or just down near the?
No, it starts at the western end and
Okay.
runs right up to about where the swale is going to go into the.
I think he froze.
Stephen, are you there?
The box covered itself out.
Okay. And what's the maintenance? That's going to be earth and then covered
It's just
with.
going to be it's grass. It's so you would quite honestly weed whack it once a year. That's all you need to do it. You're not going to mow it like a lawn. But yeah, it's going to run from the western end all the way up to to the side of the box culvert, so that the water stays on the paved swale and then flows at a 1% slope from the west all the way to the box culvert. It's to make sure we catch all the rainfall that drains down this way.
Commissioner Begman. So this is maybe a question for Jamie. Is there usually a maintenance type of plan for something like that? Because you can imagine vegetation growing and growing and growing and then obstructing the swale or partially obstructing the swale.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think we could address that through a condition of approval, potentially, especially since kind of got a verbal response. We could get something written and added to the plan.
I mean, you would
sorry, someone.
I think Mr. Trinkus is getting frozen periodically.
Would want to, but I apologize. I guess my computer's not happy being on all day. But the maintenance would be, basically mowing it twice a year, about midsummer and then late October. Not mowing it, but weed whacking it. So anything that grows up like a foot, just weed whacking it down to about 6 inches, and that can easily be added to the plan as a condition of approval. But that's the only maintenance we'd have to do.
Thank you.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Bassman, you have a staff report for this?
So I believe we went over the staff report at a previous meeting and continued for the site walk. So I'll kind of skip over. I think the other thing of note is the erosion controls and how the inlet, the culvert, box culvert will be protected during the construction of the swale and associated berm. The outlined recommendations in the staff report are required inspections for the stormwater drainage structure, installation and final installation or final inspection, which would probably happen at the same time, standard conditions and general provisions in the issuance of all permits. I think based on the discussion this evening, the commission might want to also add a condition such as maintenance details as outlined at the May 28, 2026 meeting by the project engineer shall be added to the site plan. And then I don't know if you want to have the engineer talk to the, I know that there was some discussion at the last meeting where this was discussed, but again, refresh the commission on how the box culvert will be protected, if there's any measures that should be installed, and what that would look like relative to the plan as well.
This is Commissioner Bassman, who does that maintenance? Who does that weed whacking?
The maintenance would be done by the property owner.
And if I can address the erosion control, I thought we may have discussed it on the field. We'll put a 9-inch Filtrex sock across the opening of the box culvert, right at that opening, so that as we, do the slight excavation, put the gravel in. Because what will happen is we're going to, excavate down for the gravel base, put the gravel in, get it, sloped to the box culvert, and then come in and pave it, and then the berm goes in right after that. But we can put a 9-inch Filtrex sock, compost sock across the opening, and that will protect, it will prevent any sediment from, getting in the box culvert, when we do this slight amount of work.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, do you have the means to add that to this staff report? Or is that not capable because it's a different system or something?
It'd be easier for me to have a Word document with the language that we can add to the staff report. I am working on it right now. I think it's almost ready. Maintenance details as outlined at the May 28, 2026 meeting shall be added. Following shall be added to the plan prior to start site. Maintenance details as outlined at the May 28th, meeting, May 28th, 2026 meeting, and a 9-inch Filtrex sock shall be added to the plan at the opening of the culvert covered. Okay. So this would be essentially condition number 1, and I can kind of overlay it over the standard conditions that the commission is generally familiar with. I think I spelled the brand name right.
I think that covers it, Jamie.
This is Commissioner Basserman. So Jamie, so I understand that this would be under possible conditions for consideration number 1, and then required inspections would be number 2 or something?
You know what? Typically, I think based on Olivia, maybe you can help me on this one. I think required inspections might be condition 1 in our new system based on our template. So maybe this would be condition number 2. Do you recall, Olivia,
Gotcha.
how it's structured?
I think maintenance would be number 1, and then the fill trucks would be number 2.
I mean, do we count the required inspections as a condition unless?
No,
Okay.
unless, no, but I don't know if the commission wants to see a revised.
Prior to start work and following shall be added to the and shall be reviewed and approved by the duly authorized agent. I think that's the information that was presented this evening, so it's just a matter of making sure that it.
Sometimes we need, we have an erosion control inspection. I didn't put it there when I was initially drafting it because there were none proposed. So I'm not sure if we want to add that.
This would typically be A, so because we generally do them in order, so A, erosion control inspection, stormwater. That's the kind of modified outline. Do commissioners have any questions or want to review any of the other application materials?
No. Are we ready for a motion?
Let me just add a few quick comments.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'll be very brief. I just wanted to add how important it is for both my client and the co-applicant to get this permit granted to do the work. This drainage issue has been a problem not only for my client, the owner of the property, but for the tenants who reside in that area with their mobile home units. It's been a very big problem for them, and it's really impaired their ability to enjoy their property 365 days of the year, which they should be able to do. And granting this permit will allow us to do the work to fix the issue and help these tenants to enjoy their homes 365 days of the year without any drainage issues. So I just wanted to emphasize how important it is for the tenants at the mobile home park to have this permit granted and do the work. We've been working on this for years now, and this really is the final item we need to resolve the drainage issue. I'll also emphasize that the staff report had minimal comments. I believe Mr. Trinkus did a wonderful job with this plan, and he's adequately answered all the questions. And this plan will resolve the drainage issue. I'll emphasize again that that Mr. Brown and Mr. Clutch have withdrawn their concerns, and they have not appeared here tonight. And I've talked to Mr. Deacon about that. I've represented that to the commission. So I just wanted to mention that before the commission made a decision. And I'm optimistic the commission is going to approve this with the conditions that are being discussed now. But in the unlikely event that the commission is considered denying this permit, I would request that instead of denial, you allow us to go back to the drawing board with your feedback. I hope that's not the case, but that's what I would request instead of a flat denial. But again, I'm hopeful that this will be approved with the conditions we're talking about. So that's really all. Thank you for your time.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, just a question that Mr. Schenkel now raised with an exhibit that we have from Mr. Brown. Do we need to do we need to note in the record that it's our understanding that the concerns that were raised in the letter of X are no longer appropriate to be considered in this case, or something like that? Do we have to reference that because we have an exhibit in there that raises a bunch of issues?
It would probably be a good idea to address whether you feel that a satisfactory response has been provided relative to that letter. I would agree. So we did receive some comments earlier today about it. I have not received any correspondence directly from either of the parties mentioned, either way. So
I guess what I'm wondering is, as a condition of approval, we understand that there is no outstanding issues from Mr. Brown raised in exhibit, XYZ.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the commission could say, based on the understanding that there's no outstanding issues between the applicants, because the letter was provided by a party to the subject application.
Can we bring up that Word document?
Do you want me to add language to that effect to the
Yes,
add
please.
to the So essentially, the thought would be language such as, based on the commission's understanding that there are no outstanding concerns regarding the May 14, 2026 correspondence, the commission decision and possible conditions for consideration.
Say that last part again.
I don't know. I just didn't feel like preemptively typing what the commission's decision was, so there's a blank here. But it would be such
Well,
as the commission moves to approve with the following conditions or something like that.
Why isn't there a period just after correspondence? And just say, forget the based on. The commission understands that there is
Okay.
no outstanding concerns. Okay, Commissioner Beckman, you were about to say something.
Are we ready for a motion? It's Commissioner Begamon. Okay. I move that we approve inland wetlands 2614, 509 to 545 East Main Street and 612 Business Park Drive. The commission understands that there are no outstanding concerns regarding the May 14, 2026 correspondence, and that we approve it according to the staff report that was drafted for 4/21/26, that was revised during the 5/28/26 meeting with the required inspections, erosion control, stormwater drainage structure, and the final inspection with a condition that the following shall be added to the plan prior to the start of site work and shall be reviewed and approved by the duly authorized agent. A, maintenance details as outlined at the May 28/26 meeting. And B, a 9-inch Filtrex sock shall be added to the plan at the opening of the culvert. And with the standard conditions and general provisions of all permits.
And looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I'll second that.
Any further discussion or amendments to the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Armstrong, how do you vote?
Commissioner Armstrong, aye.
Commissioner Goklowski.
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Appreciate all the work you guys put into resolving this, so hopefully it bears fruit quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're back to enforcement, cease and correct 260503, 37 East Main Street, the clearing and tree removal show cause hearing. Who takes the lead on this?
Heather Gwinnell, Wetlands Enforcement Officer. I have been to the site multiple times just during the construction process, and there had been some communication that some limbing needed to be done in an area where power lines are. I have some pictures up of the site. Let's see if I can. I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay. I'm not great at the screen sharing, but everybody can see this?
Yes.
Okay. So there was some discussion that some trees needed to be cleared. Jamie had conversations with the project manager at the time that they would be limbed, and I specifically asked, when do you guys have that planned? This was during the winter time. There was still snow on the ground. They were not ready to schedule it at that time. However, I was informed that they would reach out and give me a heads up so that I could go and just see the area that they were actually going to clear. Probably a few weeks after that, I hadn't heard anything. I was, again, doing a routine inspection. And when I arrived, this entire area was not just limbed, it had been cleared. So I do have some pictures. So this is what I saw when I went after. This is where the trees had been that we were informed would be limbed. This was the result. And obviously went deep into the wetland area. I did have conversations with the superintendent on site. The previous one, they switched out, the new one, and the different project managers. So everyone was aware that this was something that was going to have to be addressed, and that they would be receiving some kind of a cease and correct order in order to remedy this. The follow-up, what you're seeing now, slightly different than the previous one. I think if you can see this, we have the orange line, which is actually a fence. And in the last 4 days, the fence has moved or has been beginning to be installed. Again, there was a conversation before this sort of went in, saying, why are we putting the fence over here? So I also would like to bring up to the commission that during this discussion of the wetland area, they also altered the direction of the fence, which pictures of here. So if you can see this pink line, this is I went last week, Thursday afternoon, and this had all been cleared back to here. And you can see over here, some of the fence posts had been put in. They were concrete. I did inform them to stop what they were doing, that this had not been, no modification had been requested. This plan had not been submitted to install the fence in that configuration.
This Commissioner Basser, go back to the previous set of pictures.
The clearing or the trees?
The fence that you had up, the white fence on the right?
Yep.
The one before this.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
But were those posts put in after the issuance of the cease and correct?
No.
Because the cease and correct was issued on what, the 3rd?
2 days ago. So I told them, I had communicated with them that Thursday afternoon that they needed to stop. And I had been, last week I was in training, so I was not available. I stopped by here on my way home because I know that the site has a lot of activity and we had a tremendous amount of rain. I informed them to stop what they were doing with the fence. Since then, so this area, the posts had been put in and concrete had been poured around the bases, and some of the paneling for, if you can see way back here, you see some of these white posts in the back. The fence has been installed on those. I was there yesterday afternoon. And these posts are now in, but I didn't see any fence paneling up.
Can you go back to this Commissioner Basserman? Can you go back to that site plan that you started with?
The original one. This is
the current one. I guess I'm looking for where the wetland is, where the delineation is on the wetland.
Sure. Well, this has not changed. This wetland line has been the same since this was the plan that was approved in the original permit, and this is the landscaping plan that the landscaper actually was working off of, which only came into existence, I believe, in I can look at the that was February January of this year versus the initial permit was issued in 2024.
And this is Commissioner Basserman, is it wetland 2 that's at the end of that red circle?
Yes, that's wetland 2.
Right.
So wetland 1 is here.
Okay.
Wetland 2 is over here.
And it just abruptly stops?
I'm not the wetland scientist. This is
Jamie
based on the
Frederick
plan.
And the wetland agent, that's the property line right there, so it's typical for wetland lands not to extend beyond the property limits.
Say that again, Jamie. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
That's the property line, so wetland flag 1, the call out for that is actually on a different property, so that's why the wetland line ends there.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations at this point about how you feel we should proceed?
Well, I think that there are representatives of the assorted parties on the call. And we had discussed previously that some kind of a restoration plan would probably be requested from the commission for the area that was cleared. Beyond my assuming that and telling them, I haven't really given them any further information because I'm not sure what the commission kind of wanted, what direction they wanted to take. I would like to hear the more information about the fence and why it was moved past the limits of disturbance and what the rationale was. But as far as further recommendations, I have to honestly leave that up to the commission. I don't know what you guys would imagine was the right course of action.
Well, this Commissioner Basserman, you said that there's, folk on the call that can address this, and let's turn it over to them and hear what their comments would be.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman. So for the record, my name is Aaron Schumacher, professional engineer with BL Companies. Unfortunately, John Schmitz, who handled this project kind of before you guys through the permitting process, he had a conflict tonight and could not be here. But I did work very closely with him on the project and was actually the engineer of record for the original design of this project. If I could is it okay if I share some plans that we have highlighted and some stuff? Is that okay with you guys, or?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just request that those materials that haven't been submitted, if you could submit them for our records.
Okay, yeah, there are plans that have been submitted to you guys. I just highlighted them is all I did. I can send them to you after the meeting if you would like as well.
That'd be appreciated. Thank you.
And I also forgot to mention, on the call tonight is Jay Tillman. He's a representative of the owner, Premier Self Storage, and Mike Butcher, who's the general contractor on the job as well. If you have questions for them, they can chime in. So this is the original landscaping plan that was approved by the commission. And the things I highlighted are just the wetlands areas highlighted here in blue. The yellow highlight is the approved limits of clearing. And then the green highlight is the proposed landscaping kind of along this edge of the driveway, which consists of American holly and eastern red cedars. The 10s are the American holly and the JVs are the eastern red cedars. And then this line that kind of falls off the edge of the pavement is the original location of the approved fencing that was discussed earlier. So kind of what happened throughout this project is getting power to the building and working with Eversource. So after we got approved through you guys, we went through planning and zoning, and then we went to Eversource to get their basically approval on how we are going to bring power into the building. And they have a line that runs to the back of this building that serves the municipal pump station. So if you guys aren't familiar, remember the site, this area over here is the town of Branford's pump station, sewer pump station. And there's power that feeds that, that comes an existing line that runs through the, basically clips the wetland and feeds this pump station. So as we were working with Eversource to feed the building, it became their request, and the plan developed to basically set another utility pole, this pink circle in the rear of the property, which would receive power from its existing pole, which is the yellow circle here, and feed the building. There's these green lines are the existing power lines that have been existing for some time prior to the start of our project. So this line runs through here to this yellow pole, runs through the area that was cleared near the wetlands, and feeds the pump station. So the request of Eversource, when we did this, they had two requests basically. One was to clear their line for maintenance purposes, basically to clear their 10 feet, clear their power line to continue to serve the existing pump station and make sure that that has a reliable power supply. And then their other request was that they would be able to access the poles from inside our fence. So that is the rationality behind moving the fence. So the original fence was this orange line here, and then it was relocated on our plans in order to allow Eversource to have access to their equipment and their poles, basically to continue their maintenance. And then the clearing that happened along this existing power line, 10 feet on either side of the line, basically. And I think there might have been some miscommunication. I wasn't privy to any of the conversations between kind of staff, contractor, that back and forth, but I think there might have been some miscommunication. But I think the intention of the tree clearing was to get that 10 feet, and it was done kind of under the direction of an arborist and a licensed tree crew that works for Eversource. And I think that some of the trees were probably removed to a greater extent than might have been discussed, because you can't limb off the top of a tree and just leave the bottom 10 feet below a power line and expect the tree to survive. So I think that some decisions may have been made to remove trees down to the stump. There is no kind of direct ground impact to the wetlands. It's just the removal of the trees, basically.
Aaron, if I could,
but just to be clear, that was not the plan.
So I think the plan was, sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you clarify, like the approved plan you're talking, or what do you mean by plan?
You're talking about the tree removal, right down to the stump. That was not, as I understand it from so far the discussion, not part of the original permit.
Aaron, I can answer for you if you need to.
Okay, if you want to answer, Mike, that's fine.
Commissioner Mike Butcher, I'm the Vice President of A&E Construction. We're the general contractor on site in control of the construction out there. So just to add to, the screen share that Aaron's showing is not only was the request from Eversource to clear within the 10-foot limits of the existing green line that he's showing on his screen, but from that pink new added pole, there's another feed line that they're installing from that pink pole over to the existing pole by the power station, which is their power feed that's coming across there to feed our new construction of the site. So it was clear the 10-foot for that. They also needed 10-foot clear for the new pole. So that's pretty much the gap between those two wires is what it came down to. So in the early on communication with Heather and your team from our team and with Eversource, it was to limb the trees back so that no trees or no limbs were within 10 feet of any of the power lines or the new power lines going in. So we had set up with Eversource. They gave us their recommended contractor. We had to hire their recommended contractor, and they had an arborist out there. They came out to do the tree clearing. We had a meeting out there to discuss how we were going to attack that so that we didn't impact the wetlands. We had large bucket trucks from the job site. We didn't have any equipment down in the wetlands or anything like that. And their guys, for sure, when they started limbing those trees off, we could show you some pictures of it as well. when you start limbing those trees to within 10 foot of a power line, you're not really limbing those trees anymore when those guys are out there. When they measured it off with their lasers from the, you can't measure it until we can get into wetlands, and we needed large bucket trucks and cranes to get out there. When they started measuring those trees up when they were out there and you go down 10 foot, you end up with just like a 5 foot tall stump standing in the air. There's no limbs left because the wires are so low there. It doesn't leave much for a tree. So with the arborist and the tree clearing guy, when they went through there, anything that was dead or anything that had no limbs left on it, they took down and stumped it to the point where they didn't disturb any land. They just took it and made it safe so that there's no something that's going to die and fall over in 2 years or a year or 3 years from now. So I will say, probably more than anything, it was a little bit of a miscommunication and a misunderstanding of a wooded area with the utility company and ownership groups and with Heather on exactly what really needed to happen compared to what Eversource wanted, and then what it was really going to look like when it was all said and done, is I think ultimately what happened.
Well, somebody should have come back, it's Commissioner Vassman, somebody should have come back and said, hey, here's what Eversource wants. Can we do it?
I don't disagree, and I think it was a miscommunication of, I think everybody's intention, even our intention, the clearing guy's intention, Eversource's intention when we went into this was we were limbing those trees back to within 10 foot of the wires. Those wires were buried in those trees. Originally, you could barely see the wires. They were overgrown to the point where any storm coming in next probably would have lost power to that pump station. I mean, it was completely overgrown. So I don't think anybody realized what the impact of limbing those trees back within 10 feet was going to be until they got in there and started clearing. So I think the overall issue was, yes, when it was, as the operation was progressing, the team should have reached out to Heather immediately and said, hey, what can you get out here and take a look at this? The guys are here clearing, and this is going to be a bigger clearing operation than what we originally anticipated based on the request from Eversource at the start. And to my point is, I think there was some miscommunication and lack of communication to Heather. Everybody was on the same page when it happened instead of when she got out there to take a look at it.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I have a couple questions that might help frame this in a way to keep the conversation moving. So, my understanding, and quite honestly, I've not been out to the site to see this firsthand, but my understanding is the main issue at hand for this evening is the removal of the vegetation in the wetland area. I know there was some confusion over whether it may be exempt as part of Eversource's siting council, sole jurisdiction of siting council activities. We never got any clear response as to whether the belief of that applied to this particular situation. So I think my main concerns moving forward are, would the property owner be open to replanting that area with lower canopy plants that would provide shade and a wooded habitat to that wetland area, but not provide future conflicts to the Eversource utility? And it sounds like you've had conversations with them, so hopefully you have an idea of what restrictions there might be with such a planting plan. And then the other question I would have is in regards to the fence, the modification of the fence from the approved limit of disturbance. Does it align with what has been disturbed on site today? It kind of looks like it based on the photos with the fence posts. So long story short, would you have to do more clearing to install the fence as it is shown? Or is that area already been disturbed?
So Jamie, I was on site this afternoon on my way from Meriden and took some photos and looked at the site. The fence is, I can actually share them with you guys and then send them to you later if you'd like. But this is kind of an overall of the area of the fence in question. The posts that were previously mentioned, you can see they're installed already. And the start of the panels that was installed, last week, they're still there. But no more have been installed. But you can see the limited clearing is where it would be now. And it is maybe slightly further, I would say within a couple feet of what was proposed and what was staked in the field.
So my recommendation to the commission would be that a planting plan be provided for any difference in the approved limits of disturbance from what was approved as a limit of disturbance to what actually has been disturbed in the field. And I would suggest that the commission consider and understand that there are some restrictions as to the planting plan based on the power lines and not wanting to create conflict.
Yeah, Jimmy, just to expand on that so everyone understands, you can see the lines in this photo. They're kind of these in the back here. You can see them right here. So they are very low in comparison to this fence and what we would be able to plant there. But we can definitely talk to our landscape architects and see if there's something they could recommend that would not be a future problem for the supply, basically, to the pump station.
It's my understanding, so Heather Winnell, wetlands officer. It's my understanding that the lines, the power lines themselves, are actually toward the top of the pole, the higher up lines, and that those ones, again, I didn't measure up, but that those ones were actually not continuing to be used because they were low, that Eversource was actually not going to be using them. I could, like I said, I could be mistaken, but I thought that the actual functioning lines were going to be more toward the top of the poles where those transformers are, and then across the drive area to the new building or the renovated building.
The new wires will be up higher on the new poles that are set, but the existing is remaining. That stays. All that's there that you see now that's on the existing poles they're remaining to feed and handle the pump station and activity at the pump station.
Okay. They're not putting new ones in?
They're not putting, as of our knowledge right now, they're not putting any new one. They are putting in a new one in for us, but it's going to be on the new poles. They will be mounted up higher, correct? But that will be in closer to the property line going from the pump station over to that new pole that they set.
This is Jay Tillman with ownership. Eversource has already installed all of our lines. What's still being installed is some Comcast lines. Isn't that right, Mike?
Correct.
On those, and that's being installed on the 30th. Aaron, I don't believe the new fence location is outside our limit of disturbance as originally crafted. Can you clarify that, Aaron?
Yeah, so I can show you guys that. So this is so if we look at the original plan, right, you have your tree clearing and your limit of disturbance, right, that was approved as this line here.
Yes.
This is the fence line and this is the limit, so it is, I mean, it's like within a couple feet basically.
And that's nowhere near the wetlands, is it?
That's further up. That's near. So this is the existing pole. So and the reason we put the fence is basically to go behind the existing pole, and it's set just behind the existing pole to give Eversource their access that they asked for.
Correct. I'd like to let the board know that we didn't remove these trees because we wanted to. It didn't improve our visibility. It didn't do anything for us. As a matter of fact, we had to pay to trim these trees for Eversource. I'd also like to point out that the movie theater received their power on the other side of the building, and we designed our project to also receive power over there. The fact that Eversource changed their mind after all the planning and everything that had been done and all the approvals that have been sought is beyond our control. And it ended up costing our company a change order of over $75,000 because Eversource changed their mind on how they were going to provide power to this building. So it wasn't anything that caused us to profit. If anything, it's cost us a lot of money and a lot of time. And it's certainly anything that we did intentionally.
Heather Grinnell, wetlands officer, when you're sort of thinking about what the landscaping restoration might look like, Aaron, you're sharing your screen now. I don't know if you can put up, if you had a landscaping one, I think. Because in this particular one, this is the original one that was approved, the one that was sent to me, that is the updated or the version 2.
Yep.
Right. Those plants appear to be behind the fence. Are you actually putting those plants behind the fence? And if so,
So
That's an interesting
these plants
choice.
have not moved, right? So on the original planting plan, these plants were all planted behind the fence to enhance the wetland buffer, basically. So the change that's taken place is a series of them are behind the fence, right, on the wetland side of the fence, and then the fence is going to swap sides with them basically in order to incorporate that Eversource pole.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure there's a lot of area left over here for us to do, you know, additional plantings, because we already have these plantings that are proposed as part of the original approval.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So yeah, I think relative to the change in limited disturbance relative to the new pole, there's not much to do. I think my question would be relative to the clearing that happened in the wetlands. There's no plantings proposed in that area. Has the location of the clearing been identified to any extent relative to the wetland and the property boundaries?
As in field located by like a survey crew? No, but this line here is the power line, right? So it's 10 feet either side of that.
So I think my main concern would be like from wetland flag 6 to 2, kind of that 10-foot offset. And it might be, yeah, I know BL has environmental professionals, including wetland scientists. It might be that, you know, there's enough there, but I think having some sort of analysis done to see whether there's anything that should be planted to restore some sort of shade canopy to that wetland area. I do know that the stumps were left in place, which was a good call as far as, you know, maintaining ground stability. But I think that the commission would want to see some sort of assessment at the very least and possible supplemental planting plan with an understanding that there are limitations based on the power lines, particularly the older power lines that are low, to kind of offset that activity. It's understood that it's not something that the applicant was, you know, particularly seeking to do so much as directed to do, but it still is activity in and adjacent to a wetland, and this activity that this commission would generally review.
And Jamie, it's Mike with A&E. If it helps, I can steal Aaron's screen real fast and show you just a couple of pictures of like right after the clearing, and which the stakes are still in the ground, showing the limits of the wetlands and where our LOD is, just to show you that it's not. I don't think it's as bad as some of the pictures look as far as how far into the wetlands and how much clearing is done. And I can pop a couple of pictures quick if that will help.
Sure, if you could email them over afterwards, that would be helpful too.
I can, yes. So just let me share my screen here. If you can see my screen now.
I think it's still loading. Just thinking about it. There we go.
Okay. So this is the area of the, you know, the wetlands. These pink stakes right now are the wetland stakes that are staking out the edge of the wetlands that kind of run right along. And this is where this is the existing pole and wire that kind of clips right along the edge of the wetlands here. So we kind of hit kind of wetland stake 6, wetland stake 4, 3, and 2 here. And it just kind of clips the edge. So when we came in and did it, you can see that, you know, where we could limb trees, they limb these trees all back away from the power lines here. And we tried to keep as much of the trees as possible, especially in the wetlands area behind these pink stakes. A couple of these, you know, smaller trees that they limbed down that would have just died are the ones that they took up. And as you can see, I mean, there's really no other trees, you know, we limbed those back and tried to limit the disturbance and did not disturb the wetlands at all. So, you know, obviously a couple other pictures, you can see the area. So these trees here are some of the trees that were taken back. And this is the new wire for our new feed comes from kind of, this is our temporary pole, the new pole's in the same location. That wire comes kind of straight through and across. So these, you know, couple trees here, in order for that wire to go in just 10 foot out, they had to come down. So that's kind of the condition of what it was done when the clearing happened. Here's just kind of another shot straight down the line. So you can see where those trees run. everything to the left towards the wetlands, we did our best to just limb those back and get them to what Eversource would allow us to do. And then the trees over here that fall directly under the new pole, kind of back outside of the wetlands area, right on the edge of our limited disturbance, is where some of those trees just had to come down and blow it up. They did the best they could to leave stumps and limit any ground disturbance in there.
Like the previous photo you showed was so close to the silt fence, those trees that came down right there, that's also not in the wetlands.
Correct. Yep. And that's
Yeah.
why in this photo here, I was just trying to show, here's a, just so you can see kind of the line of the wetlands coming through here. So I just wanted to, I'll email those over to you as well, Jamie, but I just wanted to share those so you can kind of see, understanding the situation out there. We did the best we could with Eversource.
Any thoughts from commissioners now that you've received a lot of information?
I think this Commissioner Basserman, I guess, is the area now prone for invasive species to take over the area that was cleared?
That would be one of my concerns. That's part of why generally the commission looks for some sort of plantings and shading. So planting and shading does two benefits. One, by planting natives, we have a native vegetative buffer. By planting, we provide competition for invasives, and by having shading, it protects the thermal characteristics of the wetland, and it also kind of helps prevent, again, invasives. So I would probably recommend that, a wetland scientist or comparable type professional take a look at the area and provide a recommendation to address
as
the activity that occurred
as to type and number and et cetera,
relative to the constraints of the site. That can get reviewed and approved by the commission, and then implemented and kind of move forward with everything. That would be my recommendation.
Heather Grinnell, Wetlands Officer. I have obviously gone to the site more, and I have seen the area is got a lot of skunk cabbage coming up and other plant life. I can't determine at this point exactly what everything is, but it wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of invasive bushes in the area, so it wouldn't surprise me if those are the things that are trying to establish themselves, not that they are getting all that sunlight.
Mm-hmm. And you would reference, Commissioner Bassman, Jamie, you would reference, I think, 6-2 as the area of concern?
Oh, I believe that sounds
Wetland
right. Basically, that 10-foot offset from where the power line is.
Okay.
The area that was cleared. And like I said, it might be that there's some vegetation there that is prime for filling in, and there might not be a whole lot required, but we don't want to overplant the area unnecessarily, but we also want to make sure that the area is taken care of. So, that would be my recommendation. Should the commission move forward with that directive, how long do you think it will take to come up with a plan and be able to present that to the commission? Do you think you'd be able to have that ready for the June 11th meeting, or would you be looking for the June 25th? Obviously, I'm assuming you want to get your plantings done this season, so that way as you finish up with your project, things are good to go. So I understand it takes time to come up with a plan, but also we are coming to the close on the planting window.
Jimmy, does the commission, sorry, for the record, Aaron Schumacher with BL, does the commission want to see a recommendation from the soil scientist first, with their plan, whether that include planting or not planting, before we
Yes.
talk about planting? Is that kind of the ask? Okay.
Yeah,
I think
so-
that we could have that prepared in time for the next meeting and be ready to discuss that.
Aaron, is it possible for you to identify how much was actually disturbed in the wetlands? Because that's not clear to me.
Yeah, so I mean, we can do a couple things depending on what you would like, Jay, and what the commission would like. We can, locate the trees that were actually cut down, and show those on a plan, with like a GPS or send out either by handheld GPS or with the survey crew. And then we could, speak with Sagan, our wetland scientist, and have him prepare some kind of report or recommendation. I do have some photos for today that show there is a lot of plant life that's coming up in that area. I don't know what that plant life is and whether or not it's native or good, but we can certainly have him take a look and make a recommendation on that if that's what you guys would like.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I think that would be helpful, and I think that probably from the commission standpoint, GPS data would be sufficient. We wouldn't necessarily need it to be surveyed.
This is Commissioner Begman for the planting plan that isn't 2 to 6, but that was approved before. Is that going to go forward, or is it all going to wait until the whole plan is ready? I'm thinking about the window of planting, and if there's no reason to stop them from putting the plants in, other than the area that, the additional area that was disturbed in the wetland.
Heather Grinnell, wetland officer. I would say that the plants that are on the original plan are physically on site. The landscaper actually, when I was over there, he asked if he could put them in. He was concerned that they would be suffering, which is realistic. And we should consider how plants would actually get into this disturbed area, because between the fence going in and the plants that are currently on site, I don't know how someone would access the disturbed area, because now that fence cuts back, it basically cuts and touches or blither within less than a foot of a chain link fence that's on the property line. So the actual access to that area is going to be limited if the rest of the fence panels go in and the plants that have already been approved.
So Heather, Mike Butcher, A&E Construction, we'll have no problem with that. So we will, if we would like to proceed, get the rest of the plantings in, establish the grass. We're actually sodding the property out there as well, just to make sure that there's full germination for grand opening for this place and the property looks beautiful. So we would proceed with all the plantings and the grass and the fence and get everything cleaned up out there and try to eliminate all disturbance on the site to final paving. And then once we got through the next meeting on the 11th, if we have to pull a section of fence down over there to access it for the landscaper to put the plantings in, happy to take care of it. Whatever we need to do to access that, we will take care of that to make sure that we get you guys what you want to get those wetlands back in condition.
Jamie Frederick, I'll just point out real quick, there is 5 years of monitoring relative to the plants that were approved, and I'm sure that would apply to any new proposed plan. So, whether you remove a panel to do that inspection or, just keeping in mind that that's going to be a future problem too, because you are responsible for maintaining those plants behind the fence. So I don't know if you want to consider putting in an access gate or something like that.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Basserman. The actual installation of the plantings, done by hand, with machine, what?
The Mike with A&E Construction, the actual install of the plant will be, for most of the size plants that we have out there, it's going to be hand installation. If we need to go down to the wetlands, we will do those by hand. I'm assuming based on the amount of height and the cover and the size of the plants that we're going to be able to plant in the wetlands area, they're going to be smaller plants just because we're not going to have much room for growth. So we'll certainly be in there by hand shoveling to make that work so that we're not bringing heavy equipment into the wetlands area for sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does any commissioner feel that there's anything that they want to add beyond the discussion that we've had regarding plantings?
So Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, just to clarify, the commission is okay with them planting the approved planting plan and is expecting an update from the wetland scientists doing an investigation of the impacted area for the June 11th meeting.
Right.
I have, sorry, Heather Gwinnell, I have one other thing. If you could, let me share my screen for a second. There we go. All right. So this area here on the back side of where the fence is going to go along this line, this area is, as you can see over here, disturbed all the way back. And there, as far as I can tell, was no specific plan for any of the plants to go back here. I could be mistaken, but I don't know if you were going to, probably not going to sod that area, but it is obviously ripe for invasives to move in.
I would suggest that area, any excess material that's on the surface should be removed. I don't know if those piles in the first pictures are still there. And then that area should be seeded with a...
That, not a pile, those are just, this back here, I think that was still there.
Well, it should be graded out so that, I don't know if that's leaning up against any trees or anything, but so that there's not just a pile of dirt. And I'd recommend a conservation seed mix that's shade tolerant should be planted there.
Jamie, if I can, Aaron Schumacher from BL again. I believe the area that we're looking at there is where those proposed plantings that were approved are going to go in.
Okay. Any disturbed area not part of the
Just okay.
Plant area that's beyond particularly any limits of disturbance, because I am seeing the silt fence on one side and activity on the other, should be seeded with the conservation seed.
Okay.
Is Commissioner Basserman. So I guess at the next meeting, we'll also have a revised site plan of the new plantings, where they're located, what's going to be sodded with the appropriate conservation mix, the fence line, etc., so that we can see the picture as it unfolds. Anything else from the commission? Jamie, do you intend to send an email back covering what we discussed this evening for this season correct?
I'll request that Heather does that.
All right, Heather, and we're going to continue season correct 260503 until the June 11th meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. We have agent approvals. Any questions from the commission for either Heather or Olivia or Jamie on the agent approvals? Hearing none. Any correspondence or final comments, Jamie?
No.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Commissioner Armstrong, second.
All right. Thank you for your attendance and your time.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.